Hello, everyone. We'll get started in just a second. Give me just a minute here. Just need to get everything up to date on Instagram. Okay, I think we're good to go. Let me check. Let me make sure everything's up and running. This is fun simulcasting to all the platforms right now. So perfect. Let me just make sure. Okay. Am I in frame on Instagram? Let me see. Maybe give me a second. It's a little delayed. Okay, just a few moments, everyone. Okay, I think we're good. If you can hear me, do you mind just like putting a thumbs up or commenting? I just want to make sure the audio is working okay. Let's see here. It should be fine. Okay. Well, hello everyone. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday or start to the week. Is it the first Monday of the new year? Oh my God, it is. Well, today I'm really excited. It's actually really special for me today because we're going to be talking about my new book, Mystical Mocktails, which is really my heart and soul. And today you'll understand why this project is so special to me. But I did want to say, if you wanted to get an autographed copy and pre-order the book, any orders through today, you actually also still qualify for the pre-order bonus. And if you order through TalkShopLive, you also get an autographed copy. So if you are on TalkShopLive, you can just click the shop button. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, if you comment the word shop, you should get the link to order. And then if you're watching on YouTube, you can click the link in the description. But I just sent out that pre-order bonus today. It's an extra workshop on making magical mocktails, like an hour and 15 minutes. And then there's an extra bonus PDF with like a little message from me on customizing your drinks, advice on that, as well as 3 additional recipes that didn't make the cut to the final book. So they're extra books that were supposed to be, or extra drinks that were supposed to be in there, but didn't make it. Okay, well, it seems like everyone's coming in now. So let me see. Hi, Jason. Happy dry January. Okay, perfect. You hear me into the new year. Hi, Rachel. Gina, do you have a lemonade or a limeade type of recipe in the book? Yeah, I actually have a couple. There are a variety of, when I was making this book, I really wanted it to be approachable to a wide array of not just, flavor palettes, but also locale and accessibility, because the book could be published all over the world, right? Not just the US, but overseas as well. And so there's a variety of recipes. Some use tea bases, which the tea bases are a little stronger because we do need to be aware of dilution. But there's also some that are more lemonade or limeade based. And then there are also ones that use non-alcoholic spirits. A lot of times I make the non-alcoholic spirits optional and test them both with and without, so you can make it accessible and customizable for you. Okay, so hopefully it was helpful. And who created the book cover? It's lovely. Thank you. I did. I did all the photography myself. So that's part of one of the reasons why this project is so special to me. It is I've the most creative control I have ever had in a project. And so not just with the writing, being able to get a lot more personal and dive deep into certain areas, I did the photography. So there's a photo for each drink done by me that really tries to communicate the magic of the book. And so the cover photo is one of those recipes. That's actually the Restful Witch, which is like a little bit of a riff off of the Sleepy Girl mocktail, but with a little bit of a mystical, intentional twist with some lavender and chamomile for peace, relaxation, to really get a good night's sleep. And let's see. Chandra says, how many recipes are in the book? Love the name, by the way. There are 60. Yeah, there's 60 recipes. There was originally supposed to be 75, but I write too much. If you guys follow me online, you probably know I create a lot of recipes. And so for this book, I really wanted to be able to dive deep into the intentionality of each recipe, and not just that, also guide you on customizing it. So some ingredients are optional because I tested it both with and without. So we ended up removing 15 recipes and kept it to 60. So that way it was really focused on the content and making sure you walk away with the best of the recipes, but also being able to make your own magical mocktails at home. Okay. I love the cover design. Can you show us some of the inside pages? Yes, Serena. I wonder how good the quality is going to be on screen here. But oh God, Amber Lotus of Andrew McNeil's, that's a publisher, did such an amazing job designing everything. So it's, very purple themed inside, which I love. And let's see, you can kind of see some of the design here. I know it's a little small on screen, but hopefully with the white pages, it might be a little. And so there's some of the photos. And I'll walk you guys through the content as well, so you'll kind of understand how it's broken up. But let's see here. Yeah, like purple writing. It's just so gorgeous. Let me see if I can find, here is mango and mandarin road opening recipe. It's so delicious. If you like a frozen recipe. Whoop, sorry, I'm trying to get it in screen. And so on this side, on the photography side, there's 3 optional affirmations to sip by if you really want to sip with intention. And then we have the title, a couple of themes to help guide you as to what each recipe is for, a paragraph kind of guiding you through the magic of the recipe, the intentionality, and also there's going to be advice on where to get certain unique ingredients, certain substitutions you can do there. And then we have here on this side all of the ingredients, and some of the ingredients I put specific intentions that they're there for, so you can really add it with intentionality. So in this case, we have mint leaves specifically for refreshing and renewing the mind. We have mango that's added there, for prosperity. Mango has lots of great associations with it, but wanted to just include one to focus in on for each recipe. And then there are instructions. In the instructions, I'm able to dive deep into like how to make it magical and really imbue it with intention. And then there is a beyond the glass section at the bottom that dives into something that you can take away from that drink. So it's not just the drink recipe, but also you can walk away with either a reflection, a meditation, a tidbit of information, or maybe a little bit of like a ritual that you can add to the drink in some way. Because it was really important to me that it's not just a recipe book. It kind of takes it beyond that. And if you want, you can dive into like journaling or really make each recipe more intentional and magical. So hopefully that shows you some of the design. So I know it's a little hard on the screen, so I got my camera set up a little bit far away to see the details, but they really did like a nice job designing it. And of course, there's an appendix, with accessible information like the herbal properties or the magical properties of each ingredient, so herbology, as well as suggested drinks for seasonality, for the various moons, for the various equinoxes and solstices, as well as different preparations you can do. So there's really like a lot packed in there as much as possible. I can't always do everything perfectly, but I tried. Okay. So hopefully that answered your question, Serena. Sorry, I took a while on that one. But yeah, it's just gorgeous the way they designed it. I really love what they did. Thank you, Chandra. Chandra says, you're so creative. Congrats. Recipes and photography. Yeah, I really can't wait for you guys to get your hands on this. Like, this project is so meaningful to me, which we'll talk a little bit more about the inspiration of the book when we have a moment. Kathleen says, summer is my favorite time for cocktails. I love a refreshing cucumber-based drink. Okay, well, actually, I have a good option for you. I think Jason asked earlier if we're going to make drinks today. I have a couple options queued up for today. I kind of chose spontaneously because I was like, you know what? this is one of my favorite recipes. It was part of the proposal of the book. So when you're proposing a book to a publisher, when it's nonfiction, you put a couple of sample recipes. And that one actually has cucumber in it. It is my moon goddess colada. I'll show you guys. Oh, it's so good. But I was like, I need that today. And hopefully that will give you a little bit of the cucumber element. And then I think I saw someone ask about Joseph, are these all made to have liquor added if you want it? So the focus of the book is really on non-alcoholic drinks. There are options to add non-alcoholic spirits, which you can then use an alcoholic spirit if you wanted to. So that's the beauty of the customizability of the book. Because I tested the mocktails without non-alcoholic spirits and then with non-alcoholic spirits, those non-alcoholic spirits are made to be a rendition of, you know, a gin or a vodka or a whiskey, but obviously without the alcohol. So you can add that corresponding alcohol into the recipes. So hopefully that will kind of like help you, you know, it's a little bit of something for everyone. You know, you can really like make it your own. Okay, let's see here. Thank you, RM Creative. It's nice to see you here. Hello. Thank you. So, you say, wow, that's awesome, designing and shooting everything yourself. Yeah, it's extra special. And I guess I'll just take a moment to talk a little bit about the inspiration before we dive into, because this book is really special to me. I actually originally pitched this book over 5 years ago. So my first book was actually Witchcraft Cocktails. And if you guys follow me online, I regularly create drink recipes, but I create both cocktail and non-alcoholic versions. And that's because when I first got into, you know, metaphysics and mindfulness and intentionality, the place where I worked held AA meetings and some of my coworkers were sober. So when I got into making drink recipes, and I wanted to share with everyone because I'm Polish and we like to push food onto people. If you know Polish people, that's what we like to do. And so I wanted to be able to share these drinks with, you know, my coworkers and friends, but with some of them being sober, I had to learn to make non-alcoholic renditions. So ever since I started on my mixology path, I've been making non-alcoholic options. But back in 2020, when Witchcraft Cocktails first came out, mocktails just didn't have that much attention on them back then, unfortunately. And within the last couple of years with non-alcoholic spirits, more and more attention has been given to them. And I'm really grateful for that, because especially a year and a half ago, my husband went sober. And so this book has extra special meaning for me because it's important for me to be able to make non-alcoholic options for all of my drink recipes. So that way my partner can drink, you know, my family and extended friends who are sober can also drink with me and sip in the intentionality. So this book's really special because of that. I've been waiting for years to be able to write it. And I finally found, you know, Amber Lotus, who was willing to work with me on this project, let me do all the photography, let me have the most creative control I've ever had. So it's like, this is near and dear to my heart. Like, I've poured my heart and soul into it. And I just hope that you guys will love it. We'll see. I think you will. The people who've seen it so far have said that this is my best book yet. So, but you know, it's only a handful of people. So we'll see. And just a quick rendition. If you are watching on TalkShopLive, you can press the shop button to go ahead and grab an autographed copy of the book. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, if you type shop, a link should appear for you to get an autographed copy of the book from TalkShopLive. And then YouTube, there should be a link in the description. And just so you know, if you do get the book today, it still qualifies as a pre-order, which means that there's an extra step you have to go to, which I have in my links online, and I'll try and place somewhere that's referenceable. But you have to go to a page either on my website or on my social profiles. There should be a link to redeem the pre-order bonus. It's an extra workshop on making magical mocktails, as well as 3 exclusive recipes that were part of the 15 that were removed from the book. So that's just a bonus for people who pre-order before the release day tomorrow. Okay. Kathleen, how is the book sectioned out? I hope you guys are patient with me because I'm taking a lot of time to talk about everything. So this might take a little bit of time to answer, but let's dive in because I think this is really cool for you guys to see. And then in the second half of the show, we should have some time, I think, to do the drink recipe. So we'll do the Moon Goddess Colada with cucumber. I'm like craving that so much right now. And then I have two other options depending on where we're at, time wise. I don't want to take up too much of anyone's time. So as far as how it's organized, my intention with my work is always that there's delicious, accessible recipes that you can customize, but also that you're able to walk away with information empowered to make your own recipes. That's part of mindfulness and intentionality, really, is that we're all at different places in our lives. We're in different locales around the world. And so maybe you really want to create something that matches your own story. And so I really want to empower everyone with the knowledge to make your own magical or mystical mocktail recipes. So it's organized into two parts. Part one is there's a little bit of a foreword. I was able to get more personal stories in here, so I took the time to put some personal notes in there. But part one really grounds the mixology and the magical knowledge. So the chapters in there, the first one, Myths, Magic, and Mixology, really dives into some research I did, diving into my BA in anthropology of historical examples of non-alcoholic drink rituals. Was a little hard to find at times because there's a lot of emphasis placed on alcohol, and part of that is I think just the nature of the decomposition when you're doing research, but also the nature of the word drink. But I did a lot of deep diving and found some core examples of research of historical examples of non-alcoholic drink rituals. So you can really see how drinks have to mindfulness, to ritual. So it was fun to dive into that, and hopefully it creates a good platform for you to understand the magic of what you put in your cup. Now, the second chapter is Magic in Every Cup. Let me go ahead. So there's the Myths, Magic, and Mixology. This is a little picture that I took there's a section I talk about tea leaf reading with your mocktails because some of the recipes are tea base. So I thought it was fun to talk about how you could do your tea mocktail with a little bit of divination, So there's some rituals I've done with that before that have just been really potent. And let's see. So chapter 2, Magic in Every Cup. And this really dives into defining mocktails. It talks about how mocktails can be magical and healing, how it can be tied to self-care rituals and all of that. So helpful information to help you understand, in modern times, how your mocktail can be intentional and help, self-care and be for good for well-being and all that. Now, chapter 3 is one of the key chapters for me. It is what you need to make a magical mocktail. And this one is where I dive into talking about non-alcoholic spirits, how to navigate them, how to, if you want to work with bitters or non-alcoholic bitters, some options there for you, as well as, de-alcoholized beer or wines. There's some really good ones out there. Because it's a little complicated. With non-alcoholic spirits, they're not all quite the same, because whereas like a gin, you can more or less replace with another gin. Of course, there's going to be different tasting notes, different levels of quality. But with non-alcoholic spirits, they're all made a different way. So they're really different flavor components. But when you find out how to work with them, you can make the most amazing non-alcoholic drink. So I wanted to include a section there you felt confident to navigate. Then we talk about different types of teas and how to include teas into your mocktails. There's notes there of we're not just making green tea the classic way. We have to make a concentrate because of dilution. We don't want it to be watery. There's talk about citrus, different sweeteners. So there's loads of good stuff on there to help you actually navigate making really unique mocktails. Because I didn't want these to be just a lemonade. They needed to be a little more creative or different flavor profiles you can work with. So I really wanted to give you the information that you could make your own unique magical mocktails. And then the fourth chapter is mixing mocktail magic. This is where I break down how to tune any, mocktail you're making, whether it's one from this book or a recipe you found online, maybe it's just a non-alcoholic mojito, how you can make that a ritual. So maybe you don't want to get into all the complications. Maybe it's after a long day of work. This section really dives into how to make any mocktail a mindful ritual. Okay, that's a lot there. Sorry, Christine. Anyway, that's part one. I'll try and be a little more brief. Part two, I really wanted to organize the recipes by the phases of life, right? That's the intentionality of mocktails and non-alcoholic drinks, is that that's really being able to choose how we partake, when we partake, if we partake at all. And so wanted to kind of match this to where you're at in life. So the recipes are organized by intention. There's a section on recipes for renewal. This is kind of like the new beginning section. Whenever you're starting out on a new beginning, maybe you just want to cleanse your mind. Maybe you want some blessings, as you begin a new path, feel bright about it. Maybe you need to set boundaries because you're beginning on a new path. So there's recipes, aligned towards purification. Then we have recipes for connection. So these are oriented in part for gathering. It could be for date night or hanging out with friends, or it could just be for connecting to a sense of universal love, whatever it is that vibes with you. And then we have wellness and well-being. These are focused on well-being. So a little bit more on how you want to feel, taking care of yourself. There's a section there on self-care rituals that are aligned to your drink recipes, which is really fun. And then there is a section on insight. So this is where we're going to have a couple of recipes for the moon, tuning into spiritual guidance. Maybe you want a recipe to drink while you're, picking crystals or, looking at the cards or whatever it is. So that's really that was a line there, is for getting wisdom and spiritual insight. And then the last chapter is manifestation. So in a manifestation section, which is the last recipe section of the book, is where we dive into recipes. There's like abundance, wanting to feel good, having vitality and good energy. So there's a lot of like positivity recipes in there as well. Okay, and then there's an appendix in the back, which we talked about, but I probably should get caught up on comments. So let's see here. What do you think about mushroom cocktails, is what Elizabeth says. I have tried to work with them. I think they're really unique and you have to work with them in the right way. When I have worked with them, I always try to make a non-alcoholic rendition. So it's a little more complicated. Unfortunately, I am someone who doesn't really like mushrooms. So it's a little tricky for me because shiitake is one of those ones that I see a lot of people use online or infuse into spirits. And so I've got some dried shiitake or even powdered it, and I was going to infuse it with some coffee. And anyway, it's just really hard for me to overcome the flavor of shiitake, but it's something that I will work on. But I think it's a really cool thing because mushrooms are really magical. Gabby S says, hi, Julia, how does creating mocktails differ from crafting alcoholic drinks in terms of channeling magical energy and intention? So in terms of actually making the drink recipe, there's the difference is when you make a cocktail, for me, when I'm making my recipes, if I'm making a drink with alcohol, I have to work with that flavor profile of the alcohol. And sometimes it's a little harder to work with. Now, when you work with mocktails, it's like a whole world opens up to you in terms of flavor. It gets complicated because when you have limited possibilities or unlimited possibilities, like where do I begin? But I find that with mocktails, there's just so much more creativity because when I'm working with a mocktail, the flavor of a cherry is going to express itself exactly the way that I want it to. It's going to be that burst of cherry. Whereas when I'm putting it into a cocktail, like let's say if I'm working with rum, the way that rum might interact with the cherry is going to change its expression a little bit. So you can have a lot more fun with mocktails and a lot more creativity. In terms of magical energy and intention, there's really no difference in the process of making the drink. It's really the intention you put into it. A lot of what I talk about is water as a base. So with all drinks, 1 second here, both cocktails and mocktails, water is a substantial part of the drink recipe, and we infuse intention. We think of charging, moon water, right? That's something we all are kind of familiar with. And so one way or another, water is going to be a large component of your drink recipe. So it's all going to be magical. The main difference is you. There are people who choose to not drink for whatever reason, if they're not in the mood, or they're sober, right? So there's a variety of reasons. It could be medication, it could be pregnancy, it could be you're just not in the mood to drink that day. And there's other people like my husband who've chosen to go sober or needed to go sober. And part of that is just the chemical balance in the brain. And so that means that you are kind of the deciding factor in that part. You have to determine for yourself whether having alcohol is how that interacts with you. And so for a lot of people, sobriety allows them to be a little more intentional with their drink recipes when they're able to make a delicious drink recipe, because they're a lot more aware of how it impacts them. So that's what I would say, like how it's different is it's really about you and how we're all different in terms of our flavor preferences and whether we have to be aware of certain addictions or where we're at in life and being able to have the choice to integrate that at all or not. Okay, Janelle. Let's see here. I feel like I'm so behind on questions, you guys. I'm so sorry. I'll try and keep the talking down, and we'll get into drink recipes here in a little bit. Let's see. Janelle T, could you share an example of how one of your mocktails works as both a delicious beverage and a spiritual tool? Oh my God. Well, I have some fun stories for you, Janelle. When working with the recipes that I create, I have to be very spiritual and intentional about them. And so a lot of them actually have their own stories behind it. So there's the peach and sage longevity, longevity recipe that I was actually working through a mental block on creating these recipes. And I went for a meditation or a little walk and decided to meditate by the base of a tree. And that's when I had the vision for this recipe. So let me try and pull it up for you. It's in the insight section. And there's another one that's the Rose of Remembrance, which was actually created kind of like around healing the inner child a little bit, like the loss. And it was really interesting making that drink recipe of the emotions that came up. I wasn't really aware of some of these childhood wounds that I had had. So, but let me show you. Oh, 1 second here. Oh, sorry if you guys heard that notification. Oh my God, maybe I can't find it. There's too many. Here we go. The peach and sage longevity. And so this one comes with a bit of a reflection on how we're an integrated system, just like a tree, with roots, branches, and a trunk, and how all these play an important part in our own functioning as a system, right? Something to keep us grounded, something to keep us sturdy in storms, and also where we can absorb light and new information. So there's a little bit of a meditation or reflection included in the recipe to help you kind of connect to that energy. Oh, it appears the camera is off on the live. Okay, give me 1 second, you guys. I need to reset the camera. Okay. Can you guys see it? Is everything working okay? Let's see here. No video. Okay. Give me 1 second and let me try something else. Okay, let's see. Can you guys see me now? Fingers crossed. Ah, I'm glad you can hear me fine, Blair. Okay, let's see. It says refresh. Okay. One more thing. Let me try it. Thank you guys for your patience. Okay. Did that work? Oh my God. Thank you guys for your patience. Okay. And the only thing is, I don't know if it's on Instagram. So let me see. Update live media. Give me just 1 second. Mhm. Hey, quick thing, Brendan, if you're in the chat, I don't know with Instagram, do I need to reset the Instagram video? Just let me know. But anyway, let's get back. Well, but everything else should be fine. So let me close that for now. And hopefully Instagram is okay too. um, Okay, perfect. So where was I? So we're talking about an example of a use in a ritual. So let me choose a good one to talk about specifically using it in a ritual. Let me choose one that I really like. So, probably a good example would be in the self care section, or the insight or the well being and wellness section. There's a whole breakout section. Throughout the book, there are 10 sections specifically on ways that you can align your drink recipe to a magical ritual. And I dive deep so that way you can kind of customize it. And so there's those 10 sections, there's two in each of the recipe chapters. And so, one of them, for example, in the chapter on renewal, I talk about salt. And so, how you use salt in your drink recipes, and then how you can also align that to things like, a salt bath ritual. There is, okay, we're all good on Instagram. Thank you, Brendan. And there's also with the self care section, there's a whole insight or a whole section on how to match your recipes to a self-care ritual. So like there, for example, there is a drink recipe in the book that uses papaya. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes papayas are really big and I have a hard time getting through all of them before they go bad. And so I put some ways that I put a recipe for you could actually match that papaya drink recipe to a face mask, and kind of turning that into a ritual process of having that self-care moment with, you can take it on a mundane level if you just want to like nurture your skin and create your own face mask at home, or you can also turn it into a ritual for beauty, so making the drink recipe aligned to beauty and then putting on the face mask to kind of infuse that into the glow of your skin. And there's a few that do that. There's a pineapple turmeric recipe, and the pineapple turmeric recipe in the wellness and well-being section is so delicious, and it's specifically made to match kind of that inner and outer glow. So that inner glow energetically that sometimes kind of magnifies outside of you, but also has nutrients that are good for the skin, like coconut milk, a little bit of turmeric, pineapple, all these things that help boost our inner and outer radiance. And so it's kind of the way that if you do the corresponding face mask that goes with that drink recipe, that you can imbue that into your skin. So that's one of the ways. There's an example on, tea leaf reading, and how to take your tea-based mocktails and align that to divining with the tea leaves as well. Okay, perfect. Oh, Mindy says you can't see me on Instagram. Huh. Okay. Well, maybe I'll just reset it. Give me 1 second. But while we're waiting just to double check, let me go back. Oh, okay. Perfect. Okay, well, oh, we're fine on Instagram. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Okay, well, we are about 30 minutes in, so I think we should shift to making one of the drink recipes. But if you guys want to drop some extra questions that I have missed, go ahead and pop them back in, and I'll try and catch them again because we had to spend a moment with my camera technical difficulties. And it looks like TalkShopLive saying that if anyone's on Instagram, log in, log out, log back in, you should be able to see it. So let's go ahead and make the Moon Goddess Colada. I also just wanted to say, if you are on TalkShopLive, we are talking about mystical mocktails. I did all the photography for this book. This book comes from such an important place for me. We have 60 non-alcoholic, mindful recipes, rituals, and affirmations. So if you're on TalkShopLive, you just click the shop button to get the book. You get an autographed copy. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, if you type shop, you should get the link or be sent the link. And then if you're on YouTube, you click the link into the description. And if you get, I'm keep pushing the pre-order bonus because it's really special to me. We did a live workshop, and you get 3 extra recipes. So if you pre-order the book before the end of today, because tomorrow's the release day, you qualify for that pre-order bonus. You also get a signed copy from TalkShopLive. And with that pre-order bonus, you just need to go through an extra step of redeeming it. I have the link in my bio and on my website on witchcraftcocktails.com. And you should be able to redeem that bonus and get it sent via email with that workshop and those 3 additional recipes. Okay, let's go ahead and make the Moon Goddess Colada. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to plug them back in. And one thing I love, I don't know if you guys are this way with books, but it's just like the smell. I'm someone who used to like volunteer in a library, so I love just the scent of like freshly printed books and especially all the photography. So, Moon Goddess Colada. And again, this was one of the recipes that was part of the proposal that I sent to Amber Lotus in order to get this book deal. So this was like the initial part of the initial inspiration. So Moon Goddess Colada. This drink, some of the themes that correspond to it is intention, intuition, spiritual purification, and hope. And I'll read you the description. So this is kind of inspired by the changing shapes of the moon. So just like the moon changes shape, waxing, waning, and vanishing, only to reappear anew, nurturing the spirit can revive one's inner light in the darkest of times. This Moon Goddess Colada evokes the healing, rejuvenating powers of the moon using cucumbers and coconut milk. It's so refreshing. I cannot wait to drink it. Instead of the more common but processed store-bought cream of coconut. The cucumber evokes the moon's calming and rejuvenating energy, while the coconut milk taps into the moon's powers of intuition and spirituality. So every ingredient has various associations with it in mysticism and from various folklore. And so I'm making these recipes, I really intentionally choose not just for flavor components and how I want it to make you feel. Maybe I'll do a bit of research on studies on the influence of these ingredients, but also on the mystical aspect of what is associated with it. Combined with jovial pineapple, refreshing mint to clear the mind, and the reawakening properties of yuzu. Yuzu we have a substitute for, so if you don't have that, don't sweat it. This creamy, addictive, and hydrating cucumber mint colada renews hope and uplifts your spirit. You'll receive the immune boosting and digestive benefits of coconut, pineapple, and citrus. A perfect example of how catering to our spirit can transmute our heart, mind, and body. So let me go ahead and have my notes in front of me because I tend to get distracted. I get off topic very easily in case you haven't noticed. So let's go ahead and make the drink recipe. I'm going to go grab my shaker right here. And hopefully you guys can see everything. I'll put it off to the side maybe. Oh. I'm so excited. This is like such a delicious recipe. So some of the ingredients we talked about, we have mint. And so when you get into the ingredient section, I make it with non-alcoholic substitutes if you like want to use a non-alcoholic spirit, but also if non-alcoholic spirits are not accessible for you, I make them optional. I tested the recipe both with and without. So and another example too is when we get into working with mocktails, we have to get a little creative on our ingredients because otherwise, when we're using citrus, it's going to get repetitive with lime, lemon, orange, grapefruit. Like you're going to get sick of those to some point. So I played around with additional citrus options, but whenever I included those additional citrus options because they add more dynamic flavor, I did give you a substitute. So that way, if you don't have something, like in this case, one of the options for this recipe is yuzu juice. Delicious. I love it. But I did also make the recipe without that. So we'll make everything, when you open up a recipe, keep in mind a lot of those ingredients, I give you substitutions and are optional. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add some mint because we really just want to refresh our senses. And as you're adding each ingredient, take a moment to tune into it, right? This is about mindfulness, about intentionality. So connect to each ingredient you're adding that's been grown, by the earth. And just smelling it, like even rosemary, it's been shown in studies, to associate rosemary with cognitive function. So taking a moment to really breathe in each ingredient. And that way too, if you decide you want a little more, like today I want a little extra mint leaf, you can add that in. So we're going to go ahead and add 3 to 4 mint leaves. Then we're going to add 2 slices of cucumber. As we said in the description, cucumber is associated with the moon. And Robert says, are you going to go dry for January? Well, I haven't put this officially on Instagram yet, but I'm not exactly hiding it. I am dry for January. And part of that is because I'm pregnant. So I can't drink right now. But if you've missed it too, my partner has been sober for 1.5 years. And it's been a blessing to help him through his sobriety journey with mocktail renditions too. So usually around this time, we're intentional one way or another, but I also have to, be dry either way. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, I'm going to continue and then I'll take another moment to answer questions. Then for the sweetener for this recipe, we have agave nectar. Now you can get this in your sweetener section at your grocery store. Now, one thing I do want to say is if, sometimes with sweeteners, people have ones that they can or can't use for medical reasons, or maybe they're vegan. In the sweetener section of the book in chapter 3, I walk you through a variety of different sweetener options you can choose from. When I say sweetener, it's because whenever we're adding citrus to a recipe, we need to balance the citrus. And so with, agave, if you don't have that, you can try other options, but there are certain ways, like if you're going to use honey instead, honey, we need to add a little bit of water. So I walk you through how to work with each sweetener to substitute things out. But I like working with agave because I can buy it straight off the shelf like this. It's got great benefits. And as you'll see in the Beyond the Glass section that we'll talk about, it's actually part of the magic of this recipe is the meaning of agave. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1/3 ounce. I'm going to pour that in. And really tuning into the intentionality of the recipe. Think about, with the cucumber, the mint, part of this recipe is transforming with the moon, right? That we can begin anew and have that sense of renewal. So really think of, especially as we're starting the new year, what is it that you're releasing? What is it that you're shifting or changing in your energy, your field? And then we can go ahead and muddle the drink. So as you're muddling it, muddling helps to break down solid ingredients. I obviously have a professional muddler, but you can use someone the other day in the live class, the pre-order workshop, said they use a rolling pin. So if that was you, I think that's a great idea. You can use a bag of wooden spoons, anything that's going to help break down some of these more solid ingredients. And to muddle, you just press down and twist. And something like cucumber, we need that extra muddling to really break down. And again, just think of, as you're pressing down and twisting, the ritual process of the movement What is it that you're renewing? What is it that you're breaking down and cleansing from your life to be, reborn in 2026 in some way? Perfect. Okay, let me take a moment for a couple of questions. Margaret says, what are the must-have ingredients in cocktails? Oh, for mocktails. There are no must-haves. Part of what I explore in the book is I don't want anything to be one note. And part of this comes from my background as a mixologist is I get a little bored of the same flavor. So there are some that use tea bases. There are some that do use soda water. There are some that use non-alcoholic spirits, but again, all non-alcoholic spirits are optional. Some use coconut water, actually is a great replacement. So there's a variety of recipes to kind of help you work through understanding how you can use them. And then of course you can, make your own recipes too. So there's really no must have. It's just kind of what recipe in the book you want to make, and then look at those ingredients, make sure you read through, see which ones are optional, any recommended substitutions. There's a variety of some that are simpler. There are some that might be a little more complicated. So I wanted to make a diversity of options for you. So it's really just getting creative and working with what you have. So there's something in here for every option really. And do I use flavored water? Sometimes I'll use like a flavored sparkling water, lemon soda water. I think I ended up removing that in the book because I didn't want it to get too complicated. But there are certain waters that I do recommend that you get if you're interested. You don't have to. It's orange blossom water and rose water. These are both non-alcoholic. Although if I was to choose one of the two of them, I would say orange blossom water. It adds an amazing touch to recipes. Like you would not believe, even if you just spray little spritz of orange blossom or orange flower water on top of your drink recipe, if you mix just a little teaspoon of it into the drink recipe, it changes the whole thing. So that's one of my favorite ones. There's a couple of drinks in the book that use that. And thank you, Linz, for saying congrats. How many recipes are in your book? 60. We have 60 recipes and lots of information. So that way you can feel empowered to make your own. And is Margaret says, is this an exclusive? Have you announced I haven't announced it officially online. Like I'm not hiding it. When I see people in person, at this point it's pretty obvious. So I let them know, but I haven't officially announced it yet. So it'll be fun when I do the official announcement online to see who actually watched live or who a first time saw the post. So it's kind of fun, but it's like I get to announce it 10 different times because half my family's in the Bay Area too. Let's continue with the recipe, and really quickly, if you guys want to get an autographed copy of the book and get that and qualify for that pre-order bonus, you can go ahead and click the shop button on TalkShopLive, Instagram, Facebook. If you type shop, they'll send you the link. As well as if you're on YouTube, you can click the link in the description, and all pre-orders, you qualify for the pre-order bonus. There is a link on my site, witchcraftcocktails.com, under my book page for Mystical Mocktails. Should take you to where you can redeem the pre-order bonus, get the extra workshop, get the 3 additional recipes, secret recipes that were removed from the final printing of the book. Okay. Let's continue. So next we're going to add coconut milk, and you can see already visually it has that creamy color of the moon, right? Coconut milk we're going to add for the moon. It's also associated with intuition and spiritual purification. And this whole recipe is about renewing with the moon. So we're going to go ahead and add an ounce. And then we're going to go ahead and add some of our citrus. So I wanted to add grapefruit, just a little bit of grapefruit for a little bit of unique flavor. Grapefruit is really all citrus in some ways cleansing and uplifting. I think we know that from our cleaning products, right? That's pretty understandable information. But specifically with grapefruit has this uplifting edge to it. It's associated a bit with mood boosting in addition to that purifying, cleansing citrus energy. So we're going to go ahead and add a 1/4 ounce. I'm just freezing it. I'm squeezing it freshly. See, I combined squeezing and freshly into one word. So I'm going to do a 1/4 ounce here. Perfect. Then we're going to add pineapple juice. And I see some more questions, so I'll come back around to them in a minute. And pineapple juice, we can think of like joy. It's associated with the sun. So adding a little bit more of that vibrancy into the potion of that renewal. So like the moon, its phases are based off of reflecting the sunlight. And so at the new moon, the moon and sun are aligned. And as the moon begins to show its light again, it's, beginning to not be so, I don't know how to describe it without getting into a whole astrology or astronomy description right now. I'm sure you guys understand. So there's that alignment that the moon has with the sun at the new moon. So adding a bit of that jovial rebirth energy through pineapple. And it's also just so refreshing. So we're going to add an ounce of that. And then we're going to go ahead. You have a choice of a 1/4 ounce of freshly squeezed lime or yuzu juice. If you get yuzu juice, you're going to fall in love. You can order it online, but otherwise you can use lime too, just to make it accessible to everyone. I'll do lime today. I do have yuzu juice and I love it. It's like one of my favorites. It just really like elevates a recipe. And especially when you kind of get sick of having lemon or lime all the time, it adds this difference to it because yuzu has more of like the essential oils of the citrus without as much of the direct acidity as far as like the fruit. Obviously, when you get the juice, you get more of the acidity, but that means that when you add it to a recipe, it adds more of those uplifting essential oils, which I really love. Okay, we're doing a 1/4 ounce of fresh lime. Okay. And then if you're going to use a non-alcoholic spirit, you can add an ounce of non-alcoholic tequila or coconut rum. I'm going to use my favorite today. And again, this is optional. I tried it both with and without. I love Beckett's 27 coconut rum. This is non-alcoholic. This and not anything that calls for coconut. I mean, it's just life-changing. Like when I first tried this for a recipe I was making for venue out in California. I was making like a drink that used this and it was just amazing. And so I've been in love ever since. So this is Beckett's 27 non-alcoholic coconut rum. I'm going to go ahead and add an ounce. And again, this is non-alcoholic. So if you're making a cocktail version, you could, use coconut rum or tequila too if you wanted to. You have that option. And let me take a moment to answer some more questions. Thank you guys for being patient with me. If I go a little off screen, it's because my computer's over here, but the camera's there. So let's see. We answered that. Linz, how do you choose the mocktails to include? That was hard, Lindsay. Sorry, just with the Z separated, I said Linz. It's hard to choose, honestly, because if you are familiar with my work, I have way too many recipes and everything that I do, and I love making drink recipes. So, especially in this one, because we started off with 75 and had to cut it down because I write too much, I really wanted to choose the recipes that, one, I thought were the most key and important to getting across the overall message of the book, as well as highlighted different accessibility options. The ones that I felt that were the most highlighted, both the intentionality of the book, but also accessibility. So it becomes hard sometimes. So there are those additional recipes that will probably shine their way through in different ways. There's some that I, make a special syrup with, but I felt the syrup was too complicated. So when I had to remove the recipes, I decided to remove those. But you can get some of the recipes, 3 of the recipes that were removed as part of the pre-order bonus. What is the healthiest sugar you can add? That's a great question, Elizabeth. I'm not a dietitian, so I don't know if I know that off the top of my head. But generally, there's, substitutes that people tend to kind of go to might be agave or honey. There's also a wide variety of actual like sugar substitutes, like date sugar. I think that when a lot of people who I talk to with different health concerns around sugar, they can have date sugar. I don't know if you've had date sugar before or dates in general, or there's like a place down in Palm Springs where you can get date shakes, like Hadley Farms. Amazing. So that's a great one to try. But you have to experiment with those. And so if you do that, just kind of compare the sweetness. Just know when you are working with those, you might have to add more or less to your recipe. So just be mindful. But I always include guidance for you guys in my books on like how to work with that. You know, you just start with less, add more to taste, and just make note of how it's different from recipe in the book so you can recreate that for yourself. Donna says, are you a licensed bartender in Arizona and California, where I'm from? You don't need to be licensed. I did take a bartending certification course. And I also worked at a distillery in several craft cocktail bars as a bar manager. So per experience and per the certification, in some ways, but in Arizona, it's not required to have a specific license. And then Laura says, congrats on your pregnancy. It is the first, boy or girl. I am not telling anyone that yet. We just found out the other day, but we're keeping it a secret for our families until the baby shower. So thank you for that, Laura. Okay. And Dylan says, do you use shrubs in any of your mocktails? I don't in this book. I do work with shrubs in my first book, Witchcraft Cocktails. Now in this one, how I work with an alternative to shrubs is I actually have recipes with fresh vinegar in it. And that's another way that I get dynamic flavor, especially because with vinegars, you can get really intricate with red wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar, white wine vinegar, rice vinegar. So I actually work with that to get layers of flavor in a couple of the mocktail recipes as a way to sideline the whole shrubs. If I included shrubs in the book, because that was something I was debating, it's just having to spend the whole time of walking that additional segment of how to make shrubs, and sometimes they take longer to make. And then it just kind of overcomplicated it. So there was a recipe that I was going to put in the book that used a shrub, but I decided it was just a little too much. And instead, let's just work with adding, fresh vinegar to a couple of the recipes. Not too much, so it's not too sour, but still to get that element. But I do, work with shrubs in other ways. Okay. Let's finish this recipe. Before we do that, I just want to remind you guys, if you want to get that pre-order bonus with the additional workshop, and the three of the 15 recipes that I removed out for space sake in the final print of the book, you can go ahead and pre-order an autographed copy today from TalkShopLive. If you're on TalkShopLive, you click shop. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, if you type shop, they'll send you the link. And if you're on YouTube, you can click the link in the description. And then you just want to go ahead and redeem that bonus. So once you pre-order, you're going to get an autographed copy in the mail a couple days later. And then just go ahead to my website, witchcraftcocktails.com. In the book section under Mystical Mocktails, there'll be a link for you to go ahead and redeem that bonus. So it's juicy stuff. Hopefully you guys take advantage. Okay. So we've added all of our ingredients, and luckily I didn't add ice or else this would be diluting the entire time. But let's go ahead and add some ice to shake. I'm so excited to drink this. This is like one of my favorites. And where'd I put the cap to this? So delicious. Okay, now quick thing I want to walk through with finishing the drink. You're going to want to go ahead and prepare it. Now, if you look at the drink in the book, you can see it has a bit of a purple color. And you're like, Julia, why isn't this purple? Well, I included an additional option. And I made it additional because I didn't want it to be too complicated. But if you have butterfly pea flower, it's pretty easy to order it online, and more shops are carrying it these days. It's basically a purple dried flower, pea flower, that actually makes a like indigo tea. And when you add acid to the indigo tea, it turns it, a pink, bright purple color. So in this case, kind of some of the fun things I work with in the book, that's again optional, you don't have to sweat it if you don't have it, is you actually make butterfly pea flower tea and you freeze it into ice, and then I blend it. So you can see it's going to have this purple color, or this, sorry, on camera it looks a little more indigo. It's a little more blue in front of me. Let me just make sure everything's working here. The camera just reset. So it's totally optional. You can just do this over ice. It's still delicious, but I did want to include a fun option, because then as we pour the drink over the ice, it's going to change from a purple or from the blue color to the purple color. And that's another symbol of the transformation that we're doing with this recipe for the renewal. So let's go ahead and shake with intention. So take a moment while you're shaking to really think about what it is you're birthing a new self for in 2026. It's a perfect time to work with this recipe. I'm going to try and shake on the other side away from the mic. So give me a second. Hopefully that was not too noisy. And then I'm going to go ahead and strain the recipe. You can see it kind of turned purple there. And I'll give it a little stir in a moment so you'll see more of it. And then we'll spend some more time on the rest of the questions that I see there. Well, you know what? I didn't bring a stirring spoon, so I'm just going to stir it with a knife, so don't tell anyone. Oh, this is so exciting. You can see it's more of this cream purple color with that ice poking out. And as the ice dilutes, it's going to turn more of that color. And then let's choose a couple of mint sprigs. Don't underestimate the power of your garnishes. One thing I talk about in the book is how garnishes can really transform your drinking experiences. Sometimes they're really underrated, but they're the first thing. Actually, we should slap it. They're the first thing that really greets the nose. And so we know the power of scent, aroma, like an attracting perfume. It creates a powerful dynamic between the scent and the flavor of what you're sipping. So I'm going to give it a slap. The slap just helps to express the oils. And then let's add a cucumber slice because I like to have a little snack with my drinks. I don't know about you guys. And it's perfect because it's like symbol for the moon. And of course, if you had, a pineapple slice, those are always delicious, but I don't have a pineapple with me right now. And let's give this a sip and answer the rest of your guys' questions. Oh my God, that's so good. Oh my God. And I do that with lime. Again, if you tried it with yuzu, be even better, but as is, delicious. Like, oh. Oh my God. That's why I made this. I was like, this wasn't on my list of recipes to make for today, but when I got partway through the day, I was like, I really want this recipe. And so to talk a bit more about the Beyond the Glass segment of the recipe, the Beyond Glass segment takes the magic of the recipe into a little more of a reflection. Sometimes there'll be like a little ritual to do, but in this case, it's more of a reflection on one of the ingredients. So it says, the ancient Aztecs believed that maguey, the agave plant, so maguey is another term for that, was born from the body of the goddess Mayahuel following a tale of love, passion, and then death. A fertility goddess with nurturing qualities, her story of rebirth in plant form shows how we can be reborn anew. As you sip this nurturing drink, think of the magic of agave reigniting your own inner passion. So just like this recipe, we're tuning into the nurturing rejuvenation of the moon, how the moon always changes phases so we can begin anew, in this case today in 2026, really thinking about that symbolism of the agave plant and Mayahuel, and thinking about how we can have that rebirth in our own lives and how can you reignite your passion to be reborn anew in some way. Okay, let's take a look at the remaining questions. And hopefully I didn't miss. I think I saw Dylan here. Shrubs, Laura, what are your favorite tools to use? I don't have a favorite because I use them all in different ways, but I'd say what I think are the most important is a fine mesh strainer. So fine mesh strainer is like this. But that's just for me. You can, if you have like a sifter for like powdered sugar in your kitchen, you can use that too. The reason is because I like to use fresh spices and like mint will break down. And so this really helps sift out, those tidbits that otherwise would get stuck in your teeth and kind of like not make a great savory experience tasting your drink. This one's not necessarily, like I said, you can use a rolling pin, but also the muddler. Because I work with a lot of fresh ingredients, being able to like actually break them down and integrate their flavor. And I do that a lot. I muddle a lot of ingredients. So that's probably the ones I use the most. Trula says orange just makes things better. Yeah, orange is delicious. Dylan says Bay Area. Are you from the Bay Area, Dylan? And Nancy says, never thought of using coconut water before. Yeah, it's so delicious. There's actually a couple of recipes. There's the magical margaritas in this book that uses coconut water. This was another recipe inspired by Practical Magic. So that's a really good one that I hope you guys will love. I love it. And then there's also the clearing cucumber gimlet as well that uses it. And then the recipe we did in the pre-order bonus, Lunar Healing, uses it as well. So there's just so many ways that you can get creative in making mocktails and mocktail bases. Jasmine says, oh, coconut milk. Yes, so delicious. Nancy, what is your favorite cocktail from the book or in general? I think from the book, it's like having me choose my favorite child. I can't. They're all good in different occasions. In this moment, I would say the Moon Goddess Colada because it's just so delicious and hydrating. And I love the butterfly pea flower crushed ice. It's just so good. I needed this. Tara F, what is your husband favorite drink you make? So that's actually the ones I talked about earlier. The tea, peach tree longevity. It's a mouth to say. I like to play with words when I make these recipe names, and then I get hard time saying them. That's one of his favorites. And in general, he also loves non-alcoholic beer. So I've had fun being able to explore the variety of non-alcoholic beers through him. But the peach tree longevity is one of his favorite recipes in the book. And are you in your own kitchen? I am not. This is actually a standing desk, believe it or not. And this is like, I have my bookshelf behind me, but I just set it up to look this way. The kitchen is not quite as visually appealing. So oftentimes, because I'm making a mess in there, making recipes. And then Larry T, do you have any favorite brands that you use? I do. There's a couple. All the Bitter, non-alcoholic bitters from All the Bitter. Amazing. I think hands down, everyone loves them. I love them too because as someone that makes mocktails for my husband and also now for myself that I can't drink for a while. And then also who makes cocktails. All the Bitter are non-alcoholic bitters that you can also use in both cocktails and mocktails. So I love them. They're amazing. We'll be doing a giveaway with them on Instagram later this month. And I talk about them in the book. But of course, if that's not accessible to you, I talk about substitutions as well. And then I also like, we use it in a recipe today, Beckett's 27. I use their coconut rum and their amaretto. I just tried their other day. Or actually just got it. I haven't tried it yet. Their cinnamon whiskey, non-alcoholic. So I'm excited to try that one. Those are some great ones. And then how many ounces are most of the drinks I make? So Larry, in the book, because I am making drinks that have the option of non-alcoholic spirits, when you don't use the non-alcoholic spirits, they're a little bit less. That's one thing to be mindful of, but you can always double a recipe. But in general, they're kind of like a basic cocktail. I know sometimes when it comes to mocktails, people make a really big serving. I'm someone who's more of an intentional sipper. So I like to, have an experience of the glass, experience the layers of flavor that's just like a cocktail, but without the alcohol. So they're not like big pours, like 16 ounce or 12 ounces by any means. I would say they're more about like 4 to 5 to 6 ounces, depending. So 4 to 6. And then, the non-alcoholic spirits, whether or not you're using those, are going to vary. Okay, I'll take a few moments here to just visit the last few questions you guys have. I want to be mindful of time, so I'll probably wrap up in about like 10 minutes, 7 minutes here. But I did want to say, make sure that you guys get your copy today because I really want you to get that pre-order bonus. So if you're on TalkShop, click shop button to order the book, Mystical Mocktails. If you are on Instagram or Facebook, type shop. You'll be sent the link to get the pre-ordered autographed copy. And then as well on YouTube, click the link, it should take you. And again, if you pre-order before the release day, which is tomorrow, the 6th, you qualify for the pre-order bonus, which is an additional workshop. It's an hour and 15 minutes of walking through making magical mocktails. We go really in depth. And then you get 3 additional recipes that were cut from the book due to space reasons. So if you go and pre-order all of those through TalkShopLive, you'll not just get an autographed copy, but you'll be able to redeem that bonus. And to get that bonus, just make sure you go to the link. You have to like just screenshot proof of purchase or take a picture of proof of purchase. You go to witchcraftcocktails.com and then go to my book section, Mystical Mocktails. It will link where to redeem. Okay, last few questions. Do you know any of, or what do you think of the proliferation of non-alcoholic spirit stores? You know, those have been, I've seen a couple of popping up. Are you talking about like cafes or bars, or do you mean like ones that just sell non-alcoholic spirits? Because there's a really cool one. I'm Polish, I have dual citizenship, and they're in Poland, and they followed me, and they just sell non-alcoholic spirits, and it's a store. It's like a bottle shop for non-alcoholic spirits, and I think that's really cool. And then there's a bunch of places like I know where they're mocktail bars. And I honestly think that's great. I will be honest, like at my wedding that we just had, the official wedding celebration, I will say, like, my family being from Poland, they like to drink a lot. And with my husband, like, you know, he's sober. He's been sober for 1.5 years, and it's amazing. And then also I'm pregnant and can't drink. And when everyone else is drinking and you're not, whether it's a choice or you just can't at that time, it's kind of like a mood killer. It's just, it feels a little strange. And so being able to have these places where people can gather and really just focus on the intentionality of their recipes and be able to be sober, I think is a wonderful experience. So I think it's awesome. We'll see, you know, how all of those go, but I think it's great for people to have that because it can feel a little strange, and not a lot of bars, unfortunately, create great mocktail options. Now, if you go to me and I'm your bartender, I will always make you, I can make you a custom mocktail on the spot. I love doing that. But not every bar is going to do that. And so sometimes it's hard when you're going out with friends and family and they're drinking and you're not. It's, you know, you don't have a great mocktail to sip on. You can feel a little strange or left out and stuff. And so the non-alcoholic options are really amazing for people to have a space, a safe space, and also feel included and have elevated beverages. I can't wait to finish this. Denise, if you wrote too much, does that mean a part 2 Mocktails book is on the way? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, if this one does well, then hopefully, I will tell you I'm really grateful because now this book is finally out. If you guys follow me online, I always create non-alcoholic versions of my recipes. You know, they're on their blog and on my feed on Instagram and whatnot. And so I'm really excited to be able to now on in all of my mixology books include both options for everyone. So we'll see, hopefully part 2. And thank you, Denise, for saying congrats. And Jasmine says, looks so yummy. Well, thank you everyone for joining me. It's been really exciting having you here. This is just one of the recipes. I had like 3 potentially to do today, but we'll just have to do those in the future together. So go ahead and make sure you get your pre-autographed copy through TalkShopLive, your autographed copy, and redeem that bonus so you can really get the introduction from the book from me, that workshop, and those extra recipes. And thank you so much for joining me to celebrate this. This has been really special. And let me just check a couple notes here. I know on TalkShopLive I have to like close the live in a specific way. Otherwise, I might have technical difficulties. Okay. Perfect. Oh, and make sure to follow my channel on TalkShopLive too, in case we get the chance to do this in the future. I would love to. So we can deep dive in other ways. But thank you guys for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful start to 2026. Happy dry January, and mess it up, yeah.